Hagravens are really cool creatures in the world of the Elder Scrolls because they are that one group of individuals who actually accomplish the whole prospect of, hey, I'm going to attempt this crazy ritual, right? I'm going to gather all of these ingredients and I'm going to become more powerful. I'm going to just go ahead and call up a Daedra, tell him to do this for me. I'm going to give him what he wants, and then he's actually going to give me the powers that I seek. That is what a Hagraven is. She is a witch who actually manages to accomplish that level of immortality that everyone seeks. And that to me is really cool that there exists an actual group of people like that. But let's talk about how to actually become a Hagraven. If you right there, if you wanted to become a Hagraven, what would you have to do? Well, the actual process in itself, it's not told to us. We do know that you need a skeever. It's a rat in the game. You need a soul gem, so there has to be a live human. Well, it doesn't have to be human, but an actual humanoid sacrifice for that soul gem. You have to have a specific Daedric prince. We are not really told exactly what prince it is. We do know that different witches venerate different princes. We know that it cannot be Periati because Periati is an asshole, and I'll talk about that later. And what else do you need? I think this as far as we actually know. Now, we don't know if they actually use the Briar Hearts on themselves or not, but as far as what we do know, that's as far as it goes. Now, let's talk about the Briar Hearts, because it's not just about the actual Daedric princes, but actually the magical items that they use. So, what's so interesting to me, at least, about the Briar Hearts and articles of similar ability is that there is such a thing as natural magic in the world of the Elder Scrolls. You can actually obtain magic from nature, whether it is from the trees, from the ground, from the earth. The essences that suffuse the planet are there, and you can obtain them if you know how to. And that's where the Briar Hearts come into play. Is that for some reason these seeds, because they are seeds from some tree that actually we're not told exactly what tree it is from, we just know, and we're told that they are seeds. We know that for some reason the magic that suffuses this particular seed can be used by other individuals, and that's exactly what the Hagravens use to empower the Forsworn. So the ritual involves them removing the heart of a Forsworn and then add in the Briar Heart so that they become, in essence, more attuned to their surroundings, to nature, and they can absorb the magic that lies on the planet through the heart, almost becoming a part of it, which is something very similar to what the Spriggans are. The Spriggans, instead of having a Briar Heart as a core of magic, they have a taproot, and this taproot is what actually makes them live, which is the reason why they are not addicted as much as they seek more taproot in order to infuse themselves with more magic. Or maybe that's just a reproductive pattern. We don't know exactly why they seek taproot, we just know that they do. And in fact, that's the Hagravens, that's why the Hagravens put taproot on buildings so as to attract Spriggans into their lairs so they can kill the Spriggans and obtain even more taproot so they can use that for their magical essences. So we know that this actually exists, that this is a fact of Elder Scrolls life that is indeed there. And it's not just the only example. We know of Heartstones. The Heartstones in Solstheim have the same ability. These are, in essence, magical, I don't know, I guess cores, rocks that fall from the Red Mountain after the eruption in the Fourth Era. And these cores can actually be used to obtain magic from the earth. If you were to attach the stones to yourself and, exchange for your heart, as it is in the quest line in Solstheim, you can become more attuned with the earth. You can kind of see what the earth is seeing, so to speak, and I guess just become more powerful through that. So we're not sure exactly what the Hagravens actually do or who is actually giving them this power. We don't know if the Daedras are themselves giving them this magic or if they're just simply facilitating it. And what do I mean by that? Well, we know that Hagravens use soul gems. Soul gems We know that they are used as currency by the ideal masters. You give them souls, and in exchange for that, they give you power. They can give you undeads. They can give you, I don't know. I would imagine all kinds of things. But in this case, it probably means power, but we don't know. So we're not sure if the ideal masters are facilitating this exchange, or if they're actually giving them the power. That we don't know. What we do know is that Hagravens venerate Daedrus. That we know. We know that the Afflicted are a thing. So if you remember, there's this quest line by Periati. I believe that's where you get Shieldbreaker, if I'm not mistaken, or Spellbreaker rather, the shield that blocks spells or wards spells. We know that they used to be a cult. The Afflicted used to be a cult for Periati, if I remember correctly, and it's interesting to me because it seems like they were a group of people that attempted to obtain power from Periati, but Periati instead afflicted them with this disease, this form of curse that makes them spit acid from their mouth so that they would cleanse Cyrodiil, or Skyrim, I guess, Tamriel in general. But what's interesting though is that when you actually get hit by a Hagraven, there is a chance that you can be inflicted brain rot, which is a disease in the game. Brain rot is the same disease that you can obtain from the Afflicted. In fact, brain rot can only be obtained, as far as I understand it, from a couple of very selected individuals. You can only obtain it from Hagravens, from Skeevers, which makes sense since the Skeevers are used in the ritual to become a Hagraven, and by the Afflicted, right? So it's interesting to me because there's a connection there. Something is happening to this Afflicted that is making them do these things, but also the Hagravens are part of that, right? And they're both cults, they're both fanatics of Daedrus, and they both probably try to obtain higher power. So it seems to me that it just goes to show the possibility that Daedrus might be the ones that are giving this witches, this hags, the power to become a Hagraven. And that's also corroborated actually by the fact that we know specifically some of the Glenmoral witches that actually venerate Hircine. For what reason, again, we are not sure. But let's talk a little bit more about maybe not just the actual process of becoming a Hagraven, as far as the immediate process and the ritual, but what happens before. So we know that what comes before a Hagraven is a hag, and what comes before a hag is a witch. So the way it works is, if you're, and for some reason this only applies for females, this is something that it's I don't know why, but this is just the way it is. But if you're a female and you're seeking powers beyond what just, I don't know, I guess the schools of magic are willing to teach you, if you're looking into those hidden magical arcs, those arcane schools of magic that they don't want to teach you in magic school and in Hogwarts, you become what is called a witch. A witch is exactly that, a person seeking power beyond what is available to her. So that's when covens are formed. Now we know that a witch is a person who is attempting to become a Hagraven, but hasn't quite started the full process. We know that the process takes years. We know that you require a coven. This is something that is not very easily, if not even maybe possibly done alone. And we know that when you're actually about to become into a Hagraven, when maybe all you need is like an extra month or a few weeks, that's when you get called a hag. And a hag is what is essentially the leader of a coven when there is no Hagraven witch, when you're like that end of the staircase of the political ladder, so to speak. That's what we do know. What else do we know? We know that Glenmoral witches are essentially immortal. It is told to us that they live. I'm doing this off the cuffs, by the way. There's no script here, so I might be rambling a bit. I've been going pretty fast. I'm sorry. But we know that Glenmoral witches, we know that they are essentially immortal. There are allegedly rumors being told to us that not the Glenmorals, but just the Hagravens have been there since the beginning of everything. Now, we don't know exactly what that entails, what the beginning of, I'm doing air quotes, the beginning of everything entails, but we do know that most of them who are actually named like the Hagravens that have names in the games, are actually Breton names, which it speaks volumes of this, because we know that they're also part of the Forsworn, right? There's some form of congregation, some form of similarity between the Forsworn and the Hagraven, and the fact that they have Breton names implies that, you know, they've been here at least since the Bretons, or before the Bretons were taken out, when the Bretons used to kind of own Skyrim, so to speak, before, when the elves and the humans were consummated, and, you know, the Bretons were formed. That's at least as far as we can go, possibly maybe seeking power to, in this case, the witches, the Breton witches, maybe seeking power to overthrow the Nords coming in here and attempting to overtake the province, but eventually maybe even failed to do so. But we do know that some of them have lived thousands of years. That's much we do now. Now, what about their powers? Well, we know that, physically speaking, we know that they're definitely weaker. They are slower. We know that they obviously lost their looks. We know that their eyesight is not as good. There's a quest line in Skyrim where this Hagraven, actually, it doesn't matter what race you actually are, the Hagraven believes that you're a Breton because she just cannot see you very well. We know that, at least physically speaking, they're not as strong as they once maybe were, but we know that obviously they are infused with dark magical essences that makes them just better arcane wise. Like when you go from the process of becoming a hag and you enter that Hagraven aspect, that in some ways you develop those dark ancient magics. Maybe the Daedric Prince gives them to you, or just your closeness to nature allows you to obtain that knowledge. But, or maybe it's just the years, right? It could just be that they have lived thousands of years, that they just know better. But for some reason, right after you become a Hagraven is when you actually obtain those dark secret powers, and that's when you can cast, you know, things like Firebolt and those ice spears that you probably couldn't do it before. We also know that their actual bodies are infused with magical arcane powers, that the claws from the Hagravens are used in alchemical ingredients to actually become more resistant to magic. So if you were to grab one of those claws and grind them for that sweet ass dust, and you were to snort that dust, literally, I'm literally speaking here, you would become more resistant to magic, which is kind of interesting. There's there's like a book, I think it's like Alchemical Guidance in Skyrim or so. I don't remember the name of the book anymore, but it talks about how if you combine the dust that you get from the claws of the Hagravens with snowberries from the mountains in Skyrim, you can become better at enchanting, which is really interesting. How just the body of a Hagraven becomes this kind of source for magic, which is really cool. Which probably speaks volumes as to, you know, their powers in general. Yeah, I think that's as far as I'm able to talk. I can't really think about anything else interesting about the Hagravens that I felt like you guys might get a kick out of. But one of the main thing, though, it's not even about the Hagravens, which was the main topic of the video. What interests me the most is the items that the Hagravens know to use, because like nobody knows that Briarhearts are cool, right? This is not like common knowledge. Only the Hagravens, and maybe like we know that the guy from Tel Mithryn in Solstheim, that he knows about the Briarhearts and about the Heartstone. So you would have to be kind of a legendary level like mage and have that knowledge about arcane powers to know this type of information. But that's what interests me the most, that these Hagravens, they know about Briarhearts. They know about how to use them in order to infuse power upon you. They know about taproots and how powerful they are, and how to manipulate creatures of the wild, which is like crazy. And I wonder, what other things could you use, right? We made a video a couple of days ago about, you know, some of these secret creatures on the Elder Scrolls world, creatures that haven't really appeared too much in the games, and we talked about the nymphs, right? And I wonder, maybe if there's a connection, right? What if a nymph, because we know that nymphs are, in essence, they're probably immortal. I would imagine they would probably be immortal. They definitely don't look mortal to me, as much as the Hagravens are. And I wonder if there's a connection there. Like, what would you have to do if you're a servant of maybe a divine or something, and you would want to become a nymph? What do you do? Like, what sort of ritual would be included? Maybe instead of taproots, maybe instead of briar hearts or heartstones, maybe if you were to kill a nymph and obtain her heart and then use that heart upon yourself, like, what would you become? That's the shit that interests me. I would love to find out more about that if that were possible, and I cannot wait for the next Elder Scrolls. It's gonna be dope, sick. Anyways, guys, that's it. I hope you all enjoyed the video, even though it was a bit rambly. I just kind of talked about random stuff, but hope you enjoy those anyways, and I'll see you all next time.